He said he missed Sunday gravy, my laugh, and the porch swing he broke at 12. 3 days later, my deed vanished. The doorbell camera caught no one. The file cabinet was locked, and the county showed a transfer I never signed. By the time I boiled water for tea, I'd learned the signature was mine, the notary existed, and the buyer was a company I'd never heard of, with my son's new mentor on its board. My name is Evelyn Hart. I am 62 years old, and I live in the 2-story wooden house in Harbour Point, Maine, that I've owned since my husband Robert was alive. We paid it off in 1999. I'm a widow, and I keep my hands busy as a part-time seamstress for folks in town. The house is solid. It has withstood decades of salt air and northern winters. It is my anchor. My son, Darren, is 34. He lives down in Portland with his wife, Savannah. She is 31 and does something she calls wellness branding from her laptop. Darren has always been in startup marketing, which, as far as I can tell, means a new company name every 18 months. His current one is Northline Forge. It sounds sturdy, but his voice always has a tremor of anxiety when he talks about money. He had not visited in 6 months, not since a difficult conversation about a car payment I couldn't make for him. Then, last Tuesday, his car was in the driveway. He looked thin, older than his years, but he smiled. He said he just missed me. We had a simple dinner, roasted chicken. He was charming, apologetic, the son I remembered from before he met Savannah. I'm really getting my life together, Mom, he said, and his eyes were so earnest. I'm on the edge of something big at Northline. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. While I was washing the dishes, he leaned against the counter. Mom, you're managing all this alone. It's too much. Let me help you organize your paperwork. The taxes, the house insurance, the warranty for the roof maintenance. I bristled, just slightly. I am very organized. That's sweet, Darren, but I know where everything is. I know, he said, using that patient voice he uses when he thinks I'm being stubborn. I just mean, let me look them over. Make sure you're not getting overcharged. Let me scan them. Get them digitized. It's safer. I am not afraid of technology, but I trust paper. Still, he was trying to help. Just to look, I said, softening. He set himself up in Robert's old study. A little while later, he called out, Mum, the printer is out of ink, again. He sighed with exaggerated frustration. It's fine. I don't need to print these comparisons. I'll just log into the county portal and download your insurance declarations. It's faster. Where's the key to the study desk? The desk drawer has a simple lock. The filing cabinet in the corner has a better one. I keep the keys on the same small ring. I handed them to him. He's my son. He left the next morning, kissing my cheek and promising to call later in the week. 3 days later, I went to the study to find the warranty for the dishwasher. I pulled my keys from the kitchen hook. The desk drawer was locked. The filing cabinet was locked. But when I opened the bottom drawer, the heavy manila envelope marked Real Estate and Deed was gone. My blood felt like ice water. I checked the small fireproof safe hidden behind the bookshelf. It was locked, untouched. No one had broken in. The doors were secure. My hands were numb as I dialed the Harbour County Recorder's office. I tried to sound casual, asking how one would request a copy of a deed. The clerk was efficient, bored. Hart, Evelyn M., she asked. 114 Beacon Street. Yes, That's right. Well, she said, clicking her keyboard. The system shows that property was transferred 2 days ago. It's listed as a deed in trust. The kitchen started to tilt. Transferred. I didn't transfer anything. To whom? A new entity. Bay Lantern Holdings, LLC. The name meant nothing. I don't understand. I didn't sign anything. The clerk sighed. The sound of someone dealing with a confused old woman. Ma'am, it was all recorded legally. The signature is Evelyn M. Hart. It was notarized by Lissa Vale. Her license number is valid and in good standing. I hung up the phone. My hand was shaking so violently I had to set it on the counter. But my mind was cold. I walked to the kitchen calendar, the one where I write everything. I flipped back. Wednesday. The date of the transfer. I looked at the notary time the clerk had read to me. 2:15 p.m. My own handwriting, in blue ink. Filled the square for Wednesday. Dentist. 2 p.m. Cleaning. I was at Dr. Gable's office, my mouth wide open, while a ghost of me was signing away my home. It was a perfect transfer, all on paper, and the knot of what I was facing began to tighten in my chest. The chill from the phone call settled into my bones. I put on my coat, my hands moving stiffly, and walked to the end of the driveway. The mailbox felt cold. Inside, beneath a catalogue and a grocery flyer, was a thick cream-coloured envelope. Official business. Harbour County Recorder. My name was on the front, spelled correctly. I didn't open it at the curb. I walked back. The crunch of gravel under my feet, the only sound. In the kitchen. I slit it open with a paring knife. It was a letter of congratulations, a bright, cheerful word for a devastating act. It confirmed the transfer of title for 114 Beacon Street. It listed the document number, the same one the clerk had read to me. It was all real. It was in the public database. Tucked behind it was a separate invoice. Seacoast Title and Abstract. I'd seen their signs around town, usually on immaculate lawns waiting for a quick sale. The invoice was for an expedited filing fee, already marked paid. I had never hired this company. I had never paid this fee. I set the letter down and called the number on the invoice. A young woman answered, her voice professionally bright. Seacoast Title. How can I help you? I kept my own voice level. My name is Evelyn Hart. I received an invoice from you regarding a property transfer, but I did not authorize this transaction. There was a pause, then polite typing. Mrs. Hart. Yes. I see your file. Our records show the transfer was completed using a limited power of attorney, signed by your representative via our secure e-notary portal. It all cleared. A what? I said. An e-notary. Yes, ma'am. We used a remote online notarization. The signer, acting as your representative, completed the knowledge-based authentication and presented valid identification. I don't know what KBA is, I said, the words feeling foreign and sharp. And I certainly did not give anyone power of attorney. I was at the dentist. The politeness in her voice tightened. Ma'am, the KBA is standard. It asks personal questions that only you would know, drawn from public records. The signer passed, and the ID matched. Our system is very secure. I hung up, my mind racing faster than my pulse. KBA, e-notary. They had used my information against me. But how I went to the study, to the old desktop computer I rarely use. Darren always teased me about my old AOL email account, the one I keep for newsletters and junk mail. He'd helped me reset the password on it years ago, I opened the web browser, the machine whirring slowly. It took me 20 minutes to find the password. When I finally logged in, I went straight to the spam folder. It was full. But 3 days ago, there was an email. Action required, verify your identity for Seacoast title. I opened it. It was a standard KBA verification link. It had been clicked. I went into the account settings, into the login history. There it was. An access attempt from last Tuesday night, just after 10 p.m., hours after Darren had supposedly gone to his hotel. The IP address was not my home. It was from a mobile device in Portland. The Seacoast title receptionist, sensing my distress before I hung up, had forwarded the file documents to my primary email. I opened them now. There was the limited power of attorney. It gave a Darren Hart the right to sign on my behalf for this single transaction. And there was the valid identification they mentioned. It wasn't my driver's license. It was a scanned copy of my Harbour Point library card, one I'd gotten 5 years ago. I remembered the day clearly. They took the photo, and I'd laughed, saying I looked like a startled owl. I lost that card a week later. Or rather, I thought I had. I kept my old IDs, expired passports, and important family photos in a wooden box in the back of the study closet. The box wasn't locked. It was just hidden under old tax returns. Only I knew it was there. And Darren, who had spent an afternoon in that study, organizing. I closed the laptop. The sequence of events was no longer a fog. It was a blueprint. He had come here, charmed me, and while my printer was out of ink, he had been digging for the tools to steal my life. I did not cry. My anger was too cold for that. I went back to the county website and found the page for the Property Fraud Alert Service. I registered my name and my address. Any change, any filing, would now send me an immediate notification. Then I called, one by one, the 3 credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. I spoke to automated systems and, eventually, to real people. I used the word fraud. I requested a full credit freeze. My name, my history, was now locked down. I called Seacoast Title back. I did not speak to the receptionist. I asked for the manager, for the person who oversaw the KBA verification. I was polite, but I was no longer the confused old woman from the first call. I was a client whose home had been stolen through their secure portal. I scheduled a meeting for the next morning. In person, I would bring my driver's license, my passport, and my dental bill. I would show them the woman they had allowed to be erased. The manager agreed, sounding worried. Before I hung up, I asked one last question. "The buyer," I said. "Bay Lantern Holdings, LLC. Who is the managing member?" There was a silence. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hart," the manager said. "Due to privacy, I cannot disclose the members of the purchasing entity. The LLC is the legal buyer." Of course it was. A company with no face. A fortress for a thief. I called Darren before my meeting at Seacoast. I kept my voice light. I said I was feeling overwhelmed and missed him, and I asked if he and Savannah would drive up for lunch. An invitation, an ambush. We met at the Clam Shell, a place on the harbour that's too bright and loud for secrets. They arrived looking like a magazine advertisement, all sleek coats and expensive sunglasses. Savannah kissed the air near my cheek. Darren gave me a tight hug. We ordered chowder. For 10 minutes. Darren talked about Northline Forge, using words like synergy and scaling. Then he leaned in, his voice dropping into that earnest tone I once trusted. "Mum?" We were thinking, he said, glancing at Savannah, who was arranging her napkin. This house, it's so much for you. We have this amazing opportunity, a way to invest in it, maybe turn the top floor into a proper B&B. Savannah smiled, a cool, measured expression. You would be the house manager, of course. Live in the main suite, rent-free. It's the perfect solution for your retirement. My retirement? I set my spoon down. The chowder was suddenly tasteless. That's an interesting idea, I said, my voice as flat as the harbour water. But I'm afraid you're a bit late. The house has already been transferred. Darren's performance of surprise was almost believable. He frowned, his brow furrowing in confusion. Transferred? What are you talking about? Did the bank mess something up? Savannah didn't flinch. She took a delicate sip of water. Evelyn? We were going to explain it. We were just moving assets to protect you. It's a legal structure, like a ladybird deed or a trust. It's for tax optimization. We were just getting ahead of the paperwork. She used the legal terms like a weapon, designed to make me feel small and ignorant. She was counting on it. A ladybird deed is not what this is. Savannah, I said. I reached into my purse and pulled out the folded copy of the document from the county. I slid it across the table, past the salt shaker. This is a deed in trust to a company called Bay Lantern Holdings, and this, I tapped the signature line, is my forged signature. And that is a notary seal from a woman I have never met, for a meeting that I never attended. Savannah's smile froze. Her eyes darted to the paper, and for a single, beautiful second, her mask of wellness branding cracked. I saw pure, unfiltered panic. Then, she recovered. She laughed, a brittle sound. Evelyn, you're being dramatic. Seacoast's title must have made a mistake. They must have mixed up your file. Darren looked from her to me, his face pale. He was a bad actor caught in a scene he hadn't rehearsed. Yeah. Mom. A mistake, Savannah's right. We will get it fixed. We will get you the advance payment as soon as I can get a hold of Colt. The name hung in the air. Colt. Before I could ask. Savannah's phone, lying face down on the table, buzzed. She glanced at it, irritated. But the angle was wrong for her, and perfect for me. The bright screen reflected clearly in the dark lens of her sunglasses, which sat between us. A text message banner, large and clear. Colt wired. Keep her calm. The blood in my veins turned to cement. Keep her calm. I had my proof, reflected in the eyes of her own vanity. I looked at my son, the boy I taught to ride a bike, the man who said he missed my gravy. He was not just a fool, he was a participant. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the restaurant noise. Get out of my house! Darren recoiled. What, Mom? We're trying to help you. I am not your asset. Darren, and that house is not your emergency fund. I want you both out. Tonight. His face twisted, the feigned concern melting into the raw anger I recognized from his teenage years. You're ruining this. You are ruining my future after everything I've done to set this up. You're going to be stubborn. I stood up, leaving my jacket on the chair. I was colder than I had ever been. What future? I asked. Begins with forged papers. I left them at the table with the bill. They were gone when I got home, but the house felt violated. They had packed their weekend bags in a hurry. Darren's keys were on the kitchen table, thrown down in anger, a scattering of metal. But as I walked through the house, checking the locks, I noticed the side porch door, the one that leads to the kitchen. The deadbolt was still open. I knew, with a certainty that made me sick, that Savannah had not thrown her key on the table. She had kept the one for the back door. The next morning, I was at the Harbour County Recorder's office at 8 a.m., right when the doors opened. I did not go to the regular window. I asked for a supervisor. I explained the situation calmly, using the words fraudulent transfer and identity theft. They gave me a form, affidavit of fraud. I filled it out, my handwriting steady. I attested, under penalty of perjury, that the signature on the deed was not mine. I paid the filing fee this time, with my own credit card. I need this recorded immediately, I told the clerk. I am placing a cloud on the title. I want a note of dispute attached to that document number. The clerk, seeing my expression, stamped it and processed it on the spot. From there, I walked 2 blocks to the county courthouse. I did not know the law, but I knew the system had to have a defense. I found the district attorney's office. I was a 62-year-old woman in a sensible coat, and I looked like I belonged there. I looked like a juror, an assistant district attorney. A sharp-looking man named Patel met with me for 10 minutes. He listened, his face impassive, as I laid out the timeline. The visit, the locked cabinet, the e-notary, the alibi. You need 2 things, Mrs. Hart, he said, handing me a packet. First, file this forgery affidavit with the state police. Second, you need a civil attorney. Immediately, they will file for a temporary order to prevent any further transfer or encumbrance. You've clouded the title. Now you need to freeze it. I thanked him and left. My next stop was Tidal Bank, the largest local branch in town. I didn't know if they were involved, but they were the most likely home for a new local business. I went to the business accounts desk. I explained that I was an attorney's assistant, a small lie, but a necessary one doing due diligence on a new company for a client. I just need to verify the registered agent for Bay Lantern Holdings, LLC, I said. The branch manager was cautious. We can't give out financial information. I don't want financials, I said. I just need to confirm the signer. We're about to wire funds, and my boss is a stickler. He relented, perhaps because I looked like someone's grandmother, not a threat. He typed, Bay Lantern Holdings. Yes, they opened a commercial account 2 weeks ago. The principal signer is Colt Merrin. The name from Savannah's phone. And his title. It's listed here, the manager said, turning the screen slightly. Consultant, Northline Forge. Darren's company. The circle was complete. I found Marisol Keene's name on a list of local real estate attorneys. Her firm, Keene and Wilder, was on the 2nd floor of an old brick building. She was in her 40s, wore no-nonsense glasses, and didn't waste my time. I laid out every document on her desk, the fraudulent deed, my dental receipt, the KBA email, the name Colt Merrin. She listened for 20 minutes without interrupting. Good, she said, when I finished. You've done 90% of the work. We attack on 2 fronts. Civil. We file for a quiet title action to have the deed voided. Criminal. We hand this entire file to the ADA you met. The fraud affidavit is the key. They work together. While I sat there, she got on her computer. Bay Lantern Holdings. Just as I thought. She pointed to the screen. Registered 2 weeks ago, using a cut-rate online service. The address. Suite 400. is a postal box at a strip mall. She shook her head. Amateurs, but dangerous. Our last stop was Seacoast Title. This time, I had Marisol with me. The manager I spoke to on the phone looked pale. We sat in a glass-walled conference room. We followed protocol, the manager insisted. The notary, Lissa Vale, conducted a full video session, and KBA. "We believe your protocol failed," Marisol said. "My client would like to see the video session. Now." The manager, seeing Marisol's briefcase, knew this was not a request. He logged into his system and turned the monitor toward us. The video feed was grainy. A woman sat in a dark room, backlit by a bright window, making her face a silhouette. She was wearing a baseball cap pulled low. She held up an ID, my library card, to the camera. "That's not me," I said. "The video notary, Lissa, asked her to state her name." The woman's voice was gravelly, low. "Evelyn M. Hart. Now, the hands," Marisol said, leaning in. "Show me her hands." On the screen, the woman rested her hands on the desk. They were younger hands, smoother, and on the back of the left hand, just below the knuckle, was a small, distinct tattoo, a sprig of verbena. "I have no tattoos," I said, holding up my own bare hands. The manager's face went white. He stopped the video. "This is highly irregular. This," Marisol said, "is felony fraud. You notarized a ghost. We expect your full cooperation." The manager typed furiously. "I am freezing the escrow account, effective immediately. Nothing goes out. I am also filing a suspicious activity report with the federal database. We will give you the full, unedited video file." As we walked out into the bright afternoon, Marisol checked her phone. "That's it," she said, a grim satisfaction in her voice. "The affidavit, the video, the shell company, the bank account link. We have enough." "Enough for what?" I asked. "Enough," she said, "to get a temporary restraining order from a judge by 5 p.m. By tonight, that LLC won't be able to sell, mortgage, or even look at your house without committing contempt of court." Harbour Point is a small town. Small towns live on information, and my house Roberts and my house is a landmark. By the weekend? The rumours had started. I heard them in the post office, the grocery aisle. "Evelyn, are you selling?" I just smiled and said, "Absolutely not. Just sorting out some paperwork." But the seed was planted. My next-door neighbour, Mrs. Delaney, caught me at the mailbox. She's 80, with eyes that miss nothing. "Evelyn?" she said, her voice a low conspiratorial whisper. "I didn't want to be a busybody, but last week, when you were at the dentist, I saw your daughter-in-law, Savannah. She was here with a man, a tall man in a very expensive suit. They were outside, measuring. I kept my voice calm. Yes, with a laser tape. He was pointing at the roofline and talking on his phone. I thought it was odd, you not being here. It was odd. Mrs. Delaney, thank you for telling me. The man in the expensive suit had to be Colt. The pieces were clicking together with a horrible, metallic sound. That confirmation was followed by another. Gus, the roofer who had replaced my shingles 5 years ago, called me. "Hey, Evelyn, just checking in. I got a strange call last week about your property. A guy named Colt wanted an estimate for a full commercial-grade roof and reinforced dormers. Said he was representing an investor turning the property into a micro-hotel." "What did you tell him?" "Gus." I told him I don't give estimates without the owner present. He got real pushy. Glad you didn't sell. Evelyn. A micro hotel. What a disgrace. I was collecting allies without even asking. At the church potluck, Pastor Hale, who knew I was having legal troubles, approached me. Evelyn, he said, handing me a sealed envelope. I believe this might help. It's a letter confirming your service hours at the soup kitchen last Wednesday. You were washing dishes for me from 1:30 until well after 3. It was the perfect, unimpeachable alibi. The exact time the fraudulent notary stamp was applied. That night, my phone buzzed with a text. It was Darren. Mom, you have to stop this. You're going to get everyone in trouble. I was just trying to help you with your debts. My hands were shaking, this time with rage. Debts, I have no debts. The house is paid for. He replied almost immediately. Your name is on the old loan, the one I took out. It's all connected. I was trying to fix it so you wouldn't lose the house. This was new. A lie so desperate it was almost pathetic. I never signed a loan. Send me the statement. He must have thought it would scare me into backing down. An hour later, an email arrived. It was a PDF of a personal loan statement from a high-interest online lender. My eyes scanned the details. The loan was for $50,000. The primary borrower was Darren Hart. The co-signer, guaranteeing the entire amount, was Savannah Lake. And there, listed in the fine print as the financial consultant who had structured the application, was the name Colt Merrin. I forwarded it to Marisol Keene. She called me within 5 minutes. This is it. Evelyn? She said, her voice hard. This isn't just a simple theft. It's a flip triangle. It's a professional scam. What does that mean? I asked, pacing the study. Colt, the mastermind, finds a vulnerable target. He uses your son to get inside. He creates a shell LLC to buy the house for $0, just a fraudulent transfer. Step 2. He has the LLC, now the legal owner on paper, take out a massive mortgage against the house's full value. It's a cash-out refinance. He gets $300,000, maybe more. Step 3. He defaults on the loan, drains the LLC account, and vanishes. The bank forecloses, and you, the original, legitimate owner, are left to fight the bank in court for years. He gets the cash, and you get the legal nightmare. My stomach turned. He would leave me homeless for a quick payout. That's the business model, Marisol said. But we have a problem. We need to link Colt directly to the fraud, not just to Darren. The loan helps, but we need the notary. Lissa Vale. Marisol was quiet for a moment. I could hear her typing. Oh, this is interesting. I just ran Lissa Vale's business registration. Guess who she listed as a client reference on her freelance notary website 2 years ago? I knew the answer. Northline Forge. Bingo. She's worked for Colt before. She's not just a random notary. She's compromised. I sat down in Robert's old chair. The pieces were all there. A complete, ugly picture of greed and betrayal. What now? I asked. Now. We hit them where it hurts. Marisol said. We have the TRO, so the house is safe for now. But Colt is about to get his big payout from the title company's escrow. That's what the wired text was about. We need to stop that wire. We need to follow the money. I'm subpoenaing the bank records from Seacoast and Tidal Bank in the morning. We are going to find exactly where that money was supposed to go, and we are going to freeze it before it disappears. It was past midnight. The house was silent, but I was not asleep. I was sitting in the kitchen in the dark, watching the side porch door. I knew she had kept that key. Then, I heard it. Not a loud noise, not a break-in, but a quiet, metallic click. The sound of a key sliding into the lock. A second click as it turned. I did not move from my chair. I reached over and flipped the switch for the back porch light, flooding the door in bright yellow. Through the glass, I saw her freeze. Savannah. I picked up my phone, which was already in my hand. I dialed 911. "I am not in immediate danger," I said, my voice low and clear. "My name is Evelyn Hart. I have a temporary restraining order, number 229C, protecting my property. A person named in the associated civil suit is attempting to enter my home. I require a civil standby." They promised an officer. I hung up and walked to the door, the deadbolt still securely fastened. Savannah was on the step, blinking in the light, her face a mask of annoyance. "Evelyn? Let me in," she hissed through the door. "I left my makeup bag." "You are not welcome here. Savannah?" I said, my voice carrying easily through the wood. "I just need to get my things. You can't just keep my personal items." "I have a court order," I said, and I read from the copy Marisol had given me. "Temporary restraining order number 229C, effective as of yesterday. All parties, including Bay Lantern Holdings and its associates, are enjoined from accessing, altering, or removing any items from this property. Any attempt to access records is a violation." A car pulled into the driveway. A Harbour Point police cruiser. An officer, a young man I didn't recognize, stepped out, his hand near his belt. I opened the door, the chain still on, and spoke to him. "Officer, thank you for coming. This is my daughter-in-law. She is party to a civil fraud case involving this house. She is here, I believe, to retrieve items that are not her own." I unchained the door and stepped back, holding the TRO. The officer read the first page under the porch light. He looked at Savannah, who was now trying to look like the victim. "Mom, I just want my personal items," Savannah said, her voice high and strained. "She's being vindictive." The officer sighed. This was not the call he wanted. "Mrs. Hart, is she a resident?" "She is not," I said. "She was a guest. She left her key behind." "All right," the officer said, turning to Savannah. "This order is clear. This is Mrs. Hart's sole residence. You are not to be here. However, I will escort you inside to retrieve your listed personal items. You will tell me what they are and where they are, and you will retrieve only those items. Nothing else. Do you understand?" Savannah's face tightened. This was not in her plan. "Fine. My toiletries are in the guest bath, and my planner is in the study." The study. Of course. We walked inside, the officer, then Savannah, then me. The officer stood in the guest bath doorway as she angrily swept makeup into a tote bag. Then we went to the study. "It's on the desk," she said, moving toward it. "Stop," the officer said. "Wait there." He went first. "This planner." "Yes." She moved past him, but not to the planner. Her hand darted to the small, secondary filing cabinet in the corner, the one where I kept old warranties and Robert's letters. She yanked the drawer open. "Ma'am, step back," the officer said, alarmed. But I knew what she was looking for. Not letters. "There are no personal items in there," I said. "Only house records." Savannah's mask of calm shattered. She was frantic. She pulled her large, expensive tote bag onto the desk, shoving the planner inside. This is ridiculous. I have what I need. Ma'am, I need to check your bag, the officer said, his patience gone. You went for a file cabinet during an escort. You're acting erratically. You can't search my bag. I can, or you can leave it here. Your choice. Furious. Savannah upended the tote bag onto the desk. Makeup, the planner, a wallet, and a black, sleek, portable scanner. The officer stopped. He looked at the scanner. He looked at me. He looked back at the file cabinet. A scanner, he said, his voice flat. He started writing in his notebook. As he was documenting her items, he pushed her wallet aside. A plastic card, caught on the leather, fell out. It clattered to the floor. Savannah lunged for it, but I was closer. I picked it up. It was a white access card, Northline Forge, and below the logo, a name and a designation. Contractor. Colt Merrin. I held it up for the officer. Officer, can you please note this in your report as well? This card belongs to the man who is the principal of the LLC that fraudulently acquired my home. The officer looked at the card, then at Savannah, whose face was pale with a new kind of terror. He took the card, examined it, and wrote down the name and number. This is evidence, he said. He handed it back to me. It's not her personal item. I took out my phone and took a clear, bright picture of the officer's report notes. I took a picture of the scanner on my desk. I took a picture of Colt Merrin's access card. I emailed all three to Marisol. He's in the system. I wrote, "This links her to him, inside Darren's company." Are we done? Savannah spat, shoving her items back into her bag, leaving the scanner. We are, the officer said. He escorted her to her car. She paused on the driveway, her face ugly in the moonlight. You're going to regret this. Evelyn. You'll be alone in that house forever. It's better than being in it with thieves, I said. She left. I watched the taillights disappear. I locked the side door. I changed the deadbolt that night. Marisol called me at 9 in the morning. She sounded energized. The banks have responded to the subpoenas. It's exactly what we thought. But better. Better, I said, clutching the phone. Seacoast Titles Bank confirmed the wire. They attempted to send the full $250,000 cash-out loan to a new account at Seafarer Credit Union. The account was opened just last week. The name on the account, Bay Lantern Holdings. So Colt got the money, I said, my heart sinking. No, Evelyn, he didn't, Marisol said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. The wire never completed. Seafarer's compliance department flagged the transaction before it was finalized. They put a hold on it. They flagged it. Why? Get this, Marisol said. The reason noted by their algorithm was high-risk transfer involving a new LLC and potential elder risk. Your age, the sudden transfer of a long-held property, the bank's own computer thought it smelled like a scam. They were holding it for review when my subpoena hit their desk. The irony was almost bitter. A machine had seen what my son had ignored. The money is frozen. Evelyn, Colt and Savannah are scrambling, but they can't touch it. I've already filed for an emergency injunction to freeze every known account tied to Colt Merrin and the LLC for the next 72 hours. A judge is signing it as we speak. Their money just evaporated. We had stopped the payout, but the theft of the ID, the image, still bothered me. Marisol, the video? The woman had my library card from 2019? Yes, she said. Where was that card? Evelyn. The one you thought you lost. I knew immediately. I went to the study, to the wooden box in the back of the closet, the one I hadn't opened in a year. I lifted the heavy lid. Inside were bundled letters, my expired passport, and a stack of old photo albums. Tucked into the front pocket of the first album was a small plastic sleeve. It was empty, but I knew what had been in it. My old library card, my old driver's license. I kept them for sentimental reasons. I remembered. I remembered so clearly it hurt. A year ago, after Robert's anniversary, Darren had been here. He'd offered to make a digital slideshow for me, a memorial. Let me scan all the old photos. Mom, he'd said, his voice soft with what I thought was shared grief. Let me protect these memories for you. He spent an entire Saturday at this desk, with this computer, and with this box of photos. He had the access. He knew exactly where the old ID was, but the rest of it. It's a 3-person job, I said to Marisol, my voice hollow. Darren had the access. He knew where the ID was kept, but he doesn't have the technical skill to fake that KBA. That's Savannah. Her wellness branding is all online tech. She built the fake digital profile, but neither of them wrote the script. That was Colt. He gave them the plan, the legal threats, the name of the shell company. I had the pieces. Now, I needed the confession. I hung up with Marisol and I called my son. He answered on the first ring, his voice frantic. Mom, what did you do? The bank? The money? Colt is going insane. He didn't get his money. Darren, the bank stopped it. There was a choked sound. Oh God. Oh God. Tell me what you did, I said. It was not a question. It was a demand. He broke. It was a total, pathetic collapse. The tears were real. The hyperventilating, the self-pity. It was the loan. The $50,000 loan. It was Savannah's idea, and Colt set it up. But the payments? They were huge. We defaulted. They were going to sue us. Mom. They were going to ruin us. So you ruined me instead. No. Colt said it was a way to use the house's value to pay it off without you knowing. He said you'd get the house back. That it was just paperwork, a temporary loan. Were you there, Darren? I asked. In the video, were you the one holding the camera? No, I wasn't. I wasn't there. I was on the call. The e-notary call. They needed a witness. I just had to sign that I saw the woman, that I saw Evelyn. I didn't understand what it really meant until it was done. I just signed it. He had been the legal witness to his own mother's forgery. He was not just an accessory. He was a participant. While he was still sobbing on the phone, my computer chimed. An email. Not from Marisol. Not from Darren. The sender was Lissa Vale, the notary. The subject line was one word, immunity. I opened it. The text was panicked. Mrs. Hart. I am so sorry. I was forced. Colt Merrin made me. He had my daughter's medical debts. He told me he would ruin my notary license if I didn't do it. I have proof. He made me. Please. I will help you. I will testify. Just tell your lawyer I will testify if the DA gives me immunity. Attached to the email was a document, a Microsoft Word file. I opened it. It was a script. It was a list of questions and answers. What was the address of your first apartment? What is the name of your paternal aunt? What is the make and model of your first car? It was the KBA. It was the list of personal questions that only I should know. Colt had provided her with the answers he had pulled from my life, likely through Darren. I forwarded the email to Marisol. I forwarded it to the assistant DA. The chain was no longer just a theory. It was a complete, unbroken line, forged in digital ink and sealed by a panicked confession. Colt was the mastermind. Savannah was the technical accomplice. And Darren, my son, was the key that unlocked the door. The Harbour Point Winter Meeting is held every year in the main reading room of the library. It is usually a dry affair, concerned with snow removal budgets and arguments over new moorings. It is a safe place. It is a public place. Marisol and I sat in the back row. I saw them near the front Colt, Savannah, and Darren. They must have been expecting to speak, perhaps to argue for a zoning variance for their micro hotel. Colt and Savannah looked restless but confident, whispering to each other. Darren sat between them, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. He looked ill. After the town treasurer finished his report on road salt expenditures, the moderator cleared his throat. We have a point of public interest, submitted by Councillor Marisol Keane. Before Marisol could even stand, a man in a sharp suit I did not recognize stood up from the front row where he had been waiting. He was a professional process server. He walked directly to the trio, Colt Merrin. He asked, his voice professional and loud in the quiet room. Colt looked up, annoyed. The server handed him a thick, stapled packet. You have been served with a civil complaint regarding a quiet title action for the property at 114 Beacon Street and a summons to appear in court. He turned to Savannah. Savannah Lake. She flinched as he handed her an identical packet. The server nodded to the moderator and walked out of the library. A shocked murmur went through the room. People were turning in their seats. Colt was on his feet, his face red. This is harassment. This is a private family matter. It is not, said a new voice. Assistant District Attorney Patel walked to the small lectern at the front. The room went dead silent. As a matter of public safety, Mr. Patel announced, the County DA's office is confirming an active investigation into criminal forgery, identity theft, and real estate fraud. We are specifically examining the activities of a new LLC, Bay Lantern Holdings. He looked around the room. If anyone in this community has been approached by Mr. Colt Merrin or his associates regarding property sales, please contact my office immediately. This is an outrage. Savannah stood up, her voice shaking but defiant. My mother-in-law is simply confused. We are trying to help her. I am not confused. The voice came from the side aisle. It was Alyssa Vale, the notary. She was pale, clutching a purse. But she was there, flanked by her own lawyer. She was speaking directly to Mr. Patel, as arranged by the proffer letter. The remote video session was staged, Lissa said, her voice trembling but clear. I was instructed to approve a signer who was not Mrs. Hart. Mr. Merrin was in the room with me, off camera, feeding me the script to override the security checks. That is a desperate lie from a failing business owner, Colt shouted, moving toward the aisle. Then explain the tattoo, Marisol said. She had moved to the front, where the library's projector was still warm from the budget slides. She plugged in a USB stick. The lights dimmed, and the projector screen lit up with the frozen image of the Seacoast title video. "This is illegal," Savannah screamed. "This is evidence," Marisol said. She hit the play button. The room watched the grainy, backlit figure in the baseball cap. They heard the gravelly voice claim to be me. Then Marisol paused the video and zoomed in, just as she had in her office. There, on the large screen, for the entire town to see, was the hand, and on the back of the hand, the small, dark tattoo of the verbena sprig. I heard my neighbour, Mrs. Delaney, gasp 2 rows behind me. "My heavens," she whispered. "That's not Evelyn. Evelyn has good hands. She's a seamstress." The silence that followed was heavy and absolute. Colt Merrin knew it was over. He grabbed his coat and made for the main doors. He was not walking. He was running. He didn't make it. Our town police chief, Chief Albright, was standing in the doorway, having entered from the lobby. He was a large man. He did not move. "Colt Merrin," the chief said, his voice carrying easily. Colt stopped, looking trapped. "You have an active warrant for your arrest, issued by Judge Peterson 1 hour ago. Charges a conspiracy to commit fraud and falsifying a notarized document." The chief stepped aside, and 2 of his officers entered the room. They didn't rush. They didn't make a sound. They simply flanked Colt, who seemed to shrink inside his expensive suit. I did not watch them put his hands behind his back. I looked at Darren. He had not moved. He was staring at the floor, his body slumped, completely broken. He looked like a child who had just realized the house was on fire, and he was the one who had struck the match. Savannah was frozen, staring at the screen, at the tattoo that had undone her. Darren slowly raised his head and looked at me across the room. His eyes were empty. He was looking for something. Forgiveness. Condemnation. An escape. I gave him nothing. There was no triumph in my heart. There was no feeling of victory. There was only the cold, hard, necessary fact of what had been done. The room was a sea of stunned faces, all turned to me. They were waiting for me to speak, to cry, to explain. I stood up slowly. I adjusted the strap of my purse on my shoulder. I looked at the town moderator, at Mr. Patel, and at my neighbours. "I am not confused," I said, my voice steady. "I am not vindictive. I am a citizen of this town, and my home was stolen." I looked at Marisol, who nodded. "I just want my house back on paper," I said. "Exactly the way it was?" Then I turned, and I walked out of the library, leaving the silence and the wreckage behind me. The town hall meeting was a public execution, but the war was won on paper. The day after, Marisol and I were in front of a judge. He was a no-nonsense man who had clearly read Mr. Patel's file. He granted the preliminary injunction, making the TRO permanent until the case was resolved. He also ordered the county recorder to attach a Ellis Pendens, a formal notice of a pending lawsuit to my property's file. My house was now legally toxic. No bank, no buyer. No one could touch it until I had my day in court. The quiet title action was swift. It wasn't a dramatic trial. It was a formal presentation of facts. Marisol laid out the evidence in a sterile, undeniable chain. The flagged wire transfer from Seacoast's bank. The grainy, damning clip of the e-notary session with the tattooed hand. The police report from the night Savannah came back for the scanner. My dental bill and the letter from Pastor Hale, proving my alibi at the hour of the crime. It was an avalanche of paper, and it buried them. Savannah's lawyer, a man with a forced tan and a cheap suit, approached Marisol before the final hearing. He was looking for a deal. His client was facing felony charges. If she cooperates, he offered, she could avoid the worst of the criminal case. My client has 2 conditions, Marisol told him. First, your client will sign a full, immediate rescission of all transfer documents. Second, she will sign a public declaration to be filed with the court, stating that the transfer was fraudulent and that Evelyn Hart is, and has always been, the sole legal owner. It wasn't just about getting the house back. It was about making the lie a permanent, public record. She agreed. Darren was handled separately. He was, as Marisol put it, the pathetic co-conspirator. He signed his own affidavit, a weak, snivelling document that claimed he knew the video session was not his mother, but that he did not fully understand the legal ramifications of his actions. He threw himself on the mercy of the court, a 34-year-old man acting like a child. The assistant DA, seeing him as more of a tool than a weapon, offered him a pre-trial diversion. If he repaid all my initial legal fees and attended a year-long class on elder protection and financial ethics, his criminal charges would be held. Colt Merrin received no such offer. He was prosecuted independently. With Lissa's testimony, the bank's records, and the script he had written, he was facing the full weight of the state. He was the architect. Lisa, for her cooperation, received the conditional immunity she had begged for. Her testimony was the final nail. Even Seacoast Title settled. They approached Marisol quietly. Their secure KBA process had been publicly humiliated. They offered to pay all of my legal fees, in full, to Marisol's firm. The agreement came with a confidentiality clause about the amount, but it was substantial. It was an admission of their failure, written in the form of a check. Finally, the day came. We were back in court. The room was empty this time, except for the judge, Marisol, and me. Savannah's signed declaration was on the desk. Darren's affidavit was in the file. The judge reviewed the final motion. He looked at me, not with pity, but with respect, and he signed the paper in front of him. "This court issues an order to void," he declared, his voice echoing in the chamber. "Any and all transfers, deeds in trust, or conveyances initiated by Bay Lantern Holdings LLC or its agents concerning the property at 114 Beacon Street are hereby declared null, void, and without legal effect, as if they never occurred." It was done. But the final victory wasn't in the courtroom. It was an hour later, at the county recorder's office. I went alone. I handed the clerk, the same one who had first told me my house was gone, the certified court order. She read it. She looked up at me, and her bored expression was gone. She nodded. She took the order and walked to a heavy, old-fashioned ledger book, and then to a modern stamp. She pulled my file. She took the fraudulent deed and, with a heavy, satisfying thud, stamped it in bright red ink, void by court order. Then, she took a new document, the order to void, and fed it into her machine. She pressed a button. I heard the mechanical sound of the stamp. She pulled it out and showed it to me. Stamped in black ink, across the top, was the legal phrase that gave me back my life. Reconveyed to Evelyn M. Hart. The chain of title was restored. The cloud was gone. I owned my home. I was, on paper, whole again. It was late afternoon. The sky already a deep, bruised purple. When he came, Darren. He walked up the porch steps alone. He carried no gifts, no flowers, no rehearsed speech. He just looked cold and empty. He didn't try to hug me. He stood on the welcome mat, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. "Mom," he said, his voice raw. Can I just stay in the attic for a while, just until I figure things out?" I had been waiting by the window. I had seen his car. I had prepared. I stepped back and let him into the entryway, but not into the house. I pointed to the small table by the door. On it, I had placed 2 documents. The first was the certified court order, the order to void, with its bright red stamp. The second was a newly drafted page from my will, a copy from Marisol's office, outlining a new, conditional trust. "The house is no longer in danger," I said, my voice as calm as the winter air. "It is also no longer a reward, Darren. It's a memory, and it now has conditions." He looked at the papers, his eyes blurring. What does that mean?" "It means we will never live under the same roof again. That's the first condition. The second is that if we are ever to have a relationship, if you are to ever be my son again in any real way, it will be based on honesty and boundaries. Written ones, clear ones, no more emotion, only facts." As if summoned by the word, his phone rang. He fumbled for it. It was Savannah. He looked at me, helplessly, and put it on speaker. "Darren, are you there? Tell her. Evelyn, are you there? Tell him we can talk about this, woman to woman." Before she could continue, I spoke, my voice clear and directed at the phone. "My lawyer will be in contact with your lawyer regarding any future communication." I reached over and ended the call. That's when he broke. The tears came, the deep, ugly sobs of a man who had lost everything because he had tried to take everything. "Mum, please." He wept. "The oak tree. Remember the tire swing, the model ships we built, the gravy. Please, Mum." He was reciting the lines from his first visit, the words he had used to betray me. But this time they were his only currency. He was trying to appeal to the mother he had counted on, the one who always fixed things, the one who always saved him. I listened. I heard every word, and I did not save him. I let the silence sit, heavy and cold, between us. Finally, I reached into the small china bowl on the table. I picked up the ring of keys he had thrown down in anger weeks ago, the old brass key to the front door, the small one to the study. "These," I said, "are yours." I held them out. He looked at them, confused, then took them. The metal was cold. "I had the locks changed," I said. "Last week. Those are just pieces of metal now. They're a symbol of a past that is over." He stared at the keys in his palm, and the finality of it seemed to land. He had no more words. He turned, slowly, and walked to the door. As he opened it, the first wet flakes of the winter's first snow began to drift down, landing on his dark coat. He walked down the steps, not looking back. I closed the door. I turned the new deadbolt. The sound was not loud. It was a simple, solid, metallic click. It was the smallest sound in the house, but it was the final, binding sentence for all the lies. The house was mine, on paper, in life, and it was, for the first time in a long time, secure. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from, so please leave a comment below and share your thoughts. If this story moved you, please subscribe to Grandma's Family Diary, like this video, and give it a big boost by hitting the hype button so more people can hear it.